Welcome back to the All About You podcast, and this morning I have two returning guests. I have Kiran, who was on the podcast. How long ago, Kiran, were you on the podcast?
Couple of years
ago.
Yeah.
And Adie, you were on the podcast
even longer ago, I think.
Right. Well, it's lovely to have you both back. Now, this time we're going to be talking about your trip to Australia.
Yeah.
First question: why Australia?
Well, my aunt, who lives in Cairns, kindly asked us whether we'd be prepared to house sit for her while her and her husband went off to visit their daughter in Salzburg. The daughter was preparing to give birth to her first child, so they thought it would be a lovely idea to go over and help her for a few weeks. And I think it ended up being about 7 weeks, didn't it?
Yes, that sounds about right.
That was the we just thought it was so good an opportunity to not be able to miss. So yeah, that's why we ended up going. It came at just the right time as well, because we were both retired, weren't we? We hadn't been retired long at that point.
Yeah, and it was a nice accident in many ways, and it's only our second time in Australia, so I'd hate for us to sort of present ourselves as super experts. And people from Cairns, don't hate us for anything we're going to say. Not that we're going to say anything negative, but we're not going to pretend that we spent all of our time exploring absolutely every square inch. But we did get to have 2 months there, which we think was a good chance for us to get a really good flavour of the place. And,
So did you fly straight to Cairns, or did you stop off on the way somewhere?
Oh, we flew by Singapore Airlines, so we actually had a break at Singapore. When I booked it, I took the longest break that it offered in terms of connecting flights, and I think that was 2 nights. Was it 2 nights or was it 3?
2.
And that was amazing, wasn't it? I really, really love Singapore. I know people hate it because they think, oh, it's just nothing but a commercial place, and and it's just completely set up for tourism. There's nothing unique or special about it, but I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love the vibe. I love everything about it. I love how clean it is. I love how efficient the transport is. The people are just so friendly as well. I just love it. I love it. If I'd have thought about it, or if we'd have had more time to plan for it, I think we would have arranged for us to have a longer time there. But it all happened so quick, and we didn't really want to take longer than 2 months as a break from the UK. So,
and Adie, what do you think about Singapore?
No, I love it. I think about it the way I think about Las Vegas, which is it's a great place to spend like a long weekend. I don't think I'd want to spend huge amounts of time there. As Kiran just alluded to, it's in many ways a big shopping mall, but there's plenty to see there. Loads of great things to do, and we went to the forest.
The botanical gardens.
Yeah, botanical gardens were wonderful.
Gardens by the Sea as well.
Yes. Sorry, we should have looked this up before.
You saw the living trees at night with all the music. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I would love to go back just to Singapore. I love Australia, but I'd love to just have a bit of time in Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you went on to Cairns.
Yeah. We flew straight there, didn't we, from Singapore?
Yeah, we had a bit of a rude awakening, and this might be us being ignorant. So anyone listening saying, "Well, of course, you idiot," it was absolutely torrential rain
when we arrived,
which we weren't expecting in Australia, and we were soon introduced to the fact that Cairns, and for the geographical, just a quick reference, it's about 1 o'clock. If Australia was a clock, it would be about 1 o'clock on the map. And it's way north. In fact, the locals even refer to it as the FNQ, Far North Queensland. It's actually nearer to Papua New Guinea than it is to Brisbane or Sydney. And so it's a very tropical climate with plenty of storms. We had lots of good weather as well, but there were a few big storms while we were there. So we weren't really expecting that, but it was interesting and good. So it was nice to sometimes not know every morning what sort of weather you were waking up to, but mostly it was very good weather while we were there.
So did you create a whole plan for this 2-month holiday?
No, we didn't, did we? Because we didn't really know what to expect. So we did such little research around it. We knew we'd be living in my aunt's house, and we knew that she was going to lend us her car to get around in. But that was it, really. I think we did a tiny bit of research. Did we buy? We knew that there was going to be like a French film festival pretty much the first weekend that we got there, or maybe the second weekend, because I think the first weekend we spent with my uncle and aunt, and we flew in on a Friday, they flew out on a Monday, and I think the French film festival started the following Friday. So we did a bit of research about that, and we bought our tickets in advance. But I think that was pretty much all the research we did.
Well, we knew we were going to be there for a couple of months, so it wasn't like you were only there for 10 days and you have to wring every second out of your time there. We took the luxury of being able to take our time and actually do it on site rather than do it all in advance. But we were very lucky that our hosts lent us their car. I will say for the record that I think you really do need transport to make the most out of Cairns. It's a very spread out city. Though the people there the friends we made there, did say that they were happy with the public transport. We didn't use it, so that's so this is a second-hand recommendation. And Kiran alluded to the French Film Festival. There is quite a lot of culture in Cairns. Again, friends we made there swore by the theatre scene. We never got to go to the theatre while we were there. We seemed to go through a bogey period where they didn't have much on for us, but they
because we went there when it was their winter, which I think was May and June.
I think there is quite a lot of culture there. We were incredibly surprised and impressed that there was a French film festival while we were there. We are big cinema goers, so that was really good, and it was really well attended as well. I think every screening that we went to, all of them, and they were all full. I think they took advantage.
So the time was perfect then, going to Cairns, and you're film buffs, and there's a French film festival. Fab.
Yes.
So what else was on the itinerary?
Again, one of the things that we hadn't expected or hadn't realised while we were there is the whole area is surrounded by rainforests, the Daintree rainforest, which is the oldest in the world, 180 million years old.
Oh my God.
I did look this up before. I don't want the listeners to think that this is the kind of information I carry around with me. But we were told this at the time. 180 million years old, whereas the Amazon is just over 50 million. So it's staggeringly beautiful and surrounds the whole city. I was in contact with my cousin while we were out there, and I actually was trying to describe it to her, and I ended up sending a photo from our local supermarket, from the car park of our local supermarket, which is this mountain covered in rainforests, which was fairly impressive, but a good indicator of just how much natural beauty there is around the area, which I'm sure we'll get to later as well. But that was something I thought was definitely a surprise to me, was just how beautiful it was. One thing we did have on our itinerary was that we were recommended a visit to visit Port Douglas, which was about an hour's drive up the coast north. Little seaside town, though Cairns is on the sea as well. In our first couple of weeks there, we decided to drive up, and once we got out of the city, only about 10 or 15 minutes, we turned a corner and came across what was pretty much the most beautiful sight either of us had ever seen. It was this astonishing bay, waves crashing onto the beach, palm trees everywhere, a mountain leading up into rainforests. So we stopped the car and take the photos, and it was all wonderful. Get back in the car, and then 5 minutes later we turn a corner and actually this is the most beautiful.
Wow.
And it just got progressively more wonderful. It's bigger bays, bigger palm trees, bigger mountains.
It's just such a wonderful drive.
Yes,
yeah.
And we'd certainly recommend that to anyone, even before you get to Port Douglas, which is a lovely town. if I say touristy, that's probably underselling it. It's a nice little town that's full of restaurants and souvenir shops and so on. But it's the drive there is worth the trip
Yeah,
on its own. And
absolutely. You could just, your life would be complete if you could do that drive every day. It's just amazing. But before we went to Port Douglas, we actually discovered Trinity Beach, didn't we?
Yes.
Which was closer to Cairns, and not that far at all. And that's a wonderful beach. That really is your kind of like, oh my God, why isn't the beach just populated by people on their honeymoon? Because it was that amazing, that fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, though they did, what we did, again, this was a common thing, but we did find it quite funny that there wasn't much swimming in the sea, because there were notices everywhere to be wary of crocodiles and stingers, which is jellyfish,
right.
but they actually call them stingers.
I was going to say, are you both beach people? Do you like relaxing in the sun?
Well, do you know what? We never thought we were until we came to Valencia, until we discovered Valencia, because we've never thought of ourselves as beach people. And it wasn't till our friend said to us, oh, you really like Valencia, you ought to go stay in my flat for a week and let me know what you think of it. And we did, and while we were here we came to the beach, and it was April, either 2013 or 2014, and it was in April. We went down to Malvarosa Beach. It was completely deserted, and it was the most fabulous place I'd ever been to. And here we are, we've got a place, 5-minute walk from the beach now. We never thought we were beach people, but now I think we realise we are, don't we? So
Yeah, well, I think there's something primal about being near the sea.
Yeah.
So what else is on your list then?
Well,
Hayley?
like I say, we used to drive. We did that drive quite a few times, and there were other beaches like Ellis Beach and Palm Cove, where there's a market every month on Sundays that we went to, and that was amazing. And again, when you're on site, it's easier to look things up. So while we were there and in Port Douglas, one of the things that out of the blue that we came across was a travelling Chinese magic show called the Maho Magic Bar. If we can find a link, we'll put it in the comments for you, Sheila. Yeah, we kind of took a chance on it. It was if I call it a caravan, that's understating it. It was more of a small marquee that they had set up. It was really, really good fun. It was quite a short show, only about an hour. But what you did is everybody came in. There were about 6 tables that you all sat around. Everyone was there, and they had 6 musicians. It was like speed dating for musicians.
Oh wow!
Where you would sit there, and they came to you. So every 10 minutes they would do their quick act, and then shift around to the next table. And it was really great fun. And some of the musicians were more. Some of the tricks weren't as good as others, but some were amazing.
But it's something completely different.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah,
and that was really terrific. And I presume they go all over the world, but that was really, really good fun and a little bit out of the blue for us. In Cairns itself, we were really pleased. There was a really nice museum there that we really enjoyed, and they had an exhibition which I'm sure is gone now. But if it's travelling, I'd recommend looking it up. It was about army blankets, basically.
Quilts.
Army quilts, yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. And it was from the First and Second, primarily the First World War, I think, but also the Second. And it was quite a widespread thing, apparently, where soldiers would take old uniforms and old blankets and turn them into quilts. And they were actually...
Their families would make these quilts for them while they were away.
No, they actually made them while they were at war to keep themselves warm. And
Yeah, because I've heard this of other crafts that soldiers would do.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's what they did. They got bits of uniform.
Yeah, and some of them were amazing, where they had all epaulettes and
Oh my God.
the sort of chevrons, the sergeant's chevrons, and put them into patterns. Really intricate and quite large as well. They were sort of kind of 6 to 8 feet square.
But the history behind something like that is quite incredible and quite emotional.
As I say, a lot of background to it, and seeing that there was actually a culture around it, and that each one had its own story, is that because they all tended to be one-man jobs, and that this was this soldier who was posted here during this war, and this was what he did and passed on to his family when he came home.
That is just amazing. I love that. I'm so glad you told that story, because that is just incredible.
Yeah, well, as I say, I'm not sure if it'll still be on. I'll see if if we can find a link somewhere to it, then we'll certainly give that, because it's worth looking up. And
I'm sure there's a book about it as well.
Yeah, it was certainly something I was totally unaware of before we saw it, and I was very impressed with the exhibition. So that was excellent. In terms of other things that we found in Cairns, the aquarium I'd certainly recommend.
Oh yes, that was amazing.
Yes, it's right in the centre of town. Quite an unprepossessing building actually, but inside it's nice, very well done. But not just fish and sea creatures. There's quite a lot about the local wildlife as well. It's one of the things we found really amusing in our time there. Contrary to the thing is crazy yellow ants. Yes, you're quite rightly looking in horror.
They had so many signs up for beware of these particular types of ants, and we had leaflets about crazy yellow ants, but we had signs on the motorway about electric ants. Check your vehicles to make sure you don't have electric ants.
Yeah, there were adverts on the radio. I say adverts, probably warnings, public information warnings. There is an infestation of crazy yellow ants. Look in your car boot. Make sure you are not transporting crazy yellow ants.
I mean, they say there's an awful lot of flora and fauna in Australia that will kill you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The old story of going to the loo and something coming up through the pipes of the loo and tricky.
So many different species of ants out there, and one of the jobs that we had to do as we were house sitting for people was to open and close the garden gates every morning, so that we could drive out and drive back in. But the gate would have the most enormous red ants on it every morning when we had to go open it up, and they were always round where the latch was that you had to lift up and whatever, so you had to do it very carefully, otherwise your hand would just be covered in them.
So you didn't sort of spray them with water or something to get them off?
That again, that would have required some kind of logic that
Sorry,
I
that's
didn't
just my
possess.
process
So, yeah.
brain thinking what I would have done. I got a spray bottle and just
I just used to wear thick garden gloves. That was okay for me.
Wow.
And I was like, why make them angrier if they don't like water?
Yes.
Wow.
But
I will become their enemy for life.
Yeah, but whenever we saw a sign for the ants or heard a information thing on the radio, that did make us laugh.
Even more.
Yes.
Even another type of ants that we ought to be aware of.
Yeah. But like I say, and there were the crocodiles and the stingers always being advertised everywhere. Actually, one of the things I did while I was there, I went jet skiing, which I'm not a particular fan of the term bucket list,
right?
But it was one of the things that I thought I would like to do if I had the opportunity. And we were wandering down by the marina, which is very nice in Cairns. They've got a very nice seafront, and I did see that there was a jet ski place there for hire, and I went on a trip, and it turned out I accidentally went on the crocodile spotting trip. So we went round
on a jet ski.
Yes, and we didn't get too. There was a couple of quite big ones that we saw while we were tootling around, and we never got particularly too close to them, and I was completely fine with it. Some of the people on our party were less so and were very keen to get away from it.
So what? This was on like a lake, presumably?
No, this was out in the coasts outside of Cairns. There are lots of islands.
Oh right,
and inlets where you could pretty much rode around in a big figure of 8.
Oh right,
I think.
okay.
And it took about an hour, and it was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it.
You loved it then?
I did. It was.
Did you get to stand up?
I think I did by accident. Yes, it was mostly because you, when the water's quite still, you can sit down and but when you start going into the bit where there's waves, it can be a bit hard on the bum. So you find yourself standing up by accident rather than doing it to look cool. You're doing it just to avoid getting bruises on your bum. But that probably says more about my jet ski technique than anything else. But
at least you did it.
I did it,
and you loved it.
I wouldn't even say it's off the list. I would do it again. I would, though I think it helped that it was absolutely stunning sunshine and fabulous scenery.
Yeah, if you're going to do it somewhere like that.
Yes,
wonderful.
exactly. I don't think it would be the same sort of going around sort of coast of Norfolk, for instance. But it's certainly something I would do again if the opportunity arose, and it was quite an opportunistic thing. But so crocodiles you'll see everywhere. And anyway, the aquarium was an excellent, probably only a morning or an afternoon but it was very, very nicely done, and we enjoyed that. And then one of the things we also did, which was pretty much sold to us as a must-do, was a trip to Kiran, which is a little town up in the mountains. You can do it either way. There's a train to go up there, or a cable car, and you can do it in either way. You can either take the train up and take the cable car down, or vice versa. We took some personal advice, and we took the train up and the cable car down, mostly because the trains are only like every hour. So if you've had enough, if you get up there and you've taken the cable car up, and you've had enough and you just missed the train, you have to wait around for an hour for the next one, whereas the cable car is always going. We did that, and it was terrific. It was really, really good. The history I remember is that the train was actually built for miners to get up to the various areas to do their mining in the early times of the city. Now it's just a tourist thing, though there did seem to be quite a lot of work going on in various places. But it's quite perilous. You can sort of, like when you're going over there were some of these bridges going over with quite steep drops. And so it just showed that they were very, very determined to get up this mountain to be doing their work. So it was about it's probably an hour's trip.
Yeah, I think it's an hour.
Up into the mountains to get to Kiran, which is a lovely little town. Again, very touristy, I'll say. It's ended up touristy. I'm sure it didn't start that way. So there's lots of shops selling souvenirs and just cafes and so on. But it's a very pleasant place, nice to wander around. Probably only a few hours, really, of wandering around. But again, the scenery is so fantastic. So the train trip up was gorgeous, really, really nice. And it takes its time. It's not like a commuter train. It tootles along. There's a couple of places you can get out and take photographs. And then the cable car. I love cable cars. That's just me.
So height's not a problem.
Not
for
a problem.
You guys.
I thought it was fantastic. Again, that was probably the better part of 3/4 of an hour.
Oh, really?
To get down.
Yeah, it took longer than you thought it would.
Cool.
Yeah, and again, there were stopping off points where you could get out and for photo opportunities.
Oh, right, so it's not just straight up on the cable car.
There's.
Oh, wow.
It's going between peaks, and it was really, really great. Not cheap, but again, I'm not going to say the prices because you might be listening to this in 5 years' time. But we'll put a link in so you could look it up for yourselves if you're interested in visiting the area.
I was going to say one thing. Did you find Australia to be expensive? When I went, I found it incredibly expensive to eat out. A glass of wine was extortionate.
Some things are definitely expensive. I think we were lucky because I think when we went it was $2 Australian to the pound. What we found was that things like groceries were really expensive, but you could get a massage for 15 quid for 45 minutes. Way, way cheaper than it would be in the UK, for example. Weird things like that actually became great, that you could have one every week and it would fit into your budget. Because we did have a budget, didn't we, of things that we would do and whatever we wouldn't do. But what we found was that, if you're just living there, food, depending on what you eat, but we found food to be quite expensive, particularly things like meats. Having said that, all the supermarkets that we went to, and this is clearly a reflection of their society, is they had ethnic foods there that was just normal. It seemed to be normal, all of the supermarkets would carry them. It's not like when you go to Tesco's or Sainsbury's or whatever and they've got your aisle, your ethnic foods aisle or whatever. These were just like normal part of everyday food over there. So that was fantastic to find, such diversity in all of the food that you ate. Eating out tended to be expensive, but again, I guess it depended where you went for that, because there was loads of Chinese and lots of Thai places that were cheap. Italian, again, wasn't that expensive, was it? I don't think we ate out as much as we could have. This is just my opinion. I think it's because the quality of food when you ate out, it didn't blow you away. I mean, it's better than, for example, what you'd get in Norfolk, is what I'd say. But in terms of it being a foodie place, I don't think Cairns was that place.
But I don't think, to be fair, I don't think we ate out that much. We were we were house sitting, so we were self catering to an extent.
Yeah.
And I think that a couple of things that we found interesting while we were there is that Kiran's already mentioned massages, which were everywhere. Is that I think is quite we'll talk about the UK is quite a minority interest. We're talking about nice massages, not naughty massages. But they're everywhere in Australia. Every shopping mall's got 3 or 4 places doing massages. They'll just be on the streets, and it's just a really, really common and relatively inexpensive self-care that you can indulge yourself in quite often. If that's
why do we think that is? Any ideas on that one?
I didn't. I never came up with anything that really made me think, of course that's something that would be cheap and widely available in Australia compared to anywhere else.
I mean, were there lots of hairdressing salons, nail places, that type of thing? Or is it just massages stood out as the main...
That's what stood out to me.
And to me as well, but I don't know whether that's just because that I've always wanted a place that I consider to be affordable for massages.
Right.
And obviously if it's out of your budget, you tend not to notice it. And I'm not one for getting my nails done anyway. So that kind of thing.
I mean, getting back to sort of eating in Australia, when I went, I found everybody ate incredibly early. I remember when we arrived in Perth, we were sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock looking for dinner, and it was like, no. And we literally had to plead with the restaurant, please can you feed us? You literally, we've just got off a plane, we are starving.
Yeah.
And admittedly we were living here, so we were used to sort of 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock lunch, dinner 9:30, and then you get there and it's like, no, we've closed, that's it at 8:30. No way.
That is true, actually. Was that one of the things we did notice was that places did shut early, and I think a lot of it has to do, I mean, I don't know, but the idea of living somewhere where even in summer it's basically dark at 7 o'clock at night. When we went, it was their winter, so it would be dark by 6 p.m. That just seems ridiculous, because you know how light it is in the UK. 10, it's like, it stays light till 10 o'clock in the summer. So it felt really strange. And bearing in mind that when they have lovely weather, it is lovely, and it's tropical and it's warm, and you just wish that you would have more daylight, that you could go home and be able to, even if you eat out early, that you could have your lovely glass of wine while the sun sets and you're looking, the place that we stayed in, my aunt's house, it had a fabulous balcony, all the living accommodations on the first floor of it, and you have this fabulous view that overlooks Cairns City at night, and you can see all the lights twinkling and whatever, and it would have been beautiful had you been able to watch the sunset there. But in order to do that, you had to be back quite early from your day was basically done. I mean, and we went out so rarely in the evening, didn't we? I don't know whether that was a function of us actually house sitting and us being told in no uncertain terms, you're here to house sit for us, you're not here to be a tourist, in that kind of way, so we're very much like told to make sure that the house was secure and that it looked lived in and all the rest of it. So
in terms of the other food thing that was interesting, but it's a bit more easy to explain, was we found sushi was incredibly cheap and common, again everywhere, but obviously there's loads of fish. Loads of fish in the air, so that's a bit easier to explain, is that there.
So are you big fish eaters anyway?
We're not, in all honesty, but it was incredibly noticeable that there was just sushi everywhere and people eating it. It wasn't. It certainly wasn't a rarefied, sophisticated treat. It was, in any family, you go and have burgers, you go and have KFC. We'll have sushi.
And are you sushi eaters?
I can eat sushi, but I'm not
out
a
of
fan.
the two of us, I'm more of a fan.
Yeah.
But because we were out there, I'd be drawn to the other types of cuisines. If I had to make my choice, it would always be like, right, I'm having a Chinese, or I'm going to try some of the Thai food. But yeah, it was definitely, that's what I tended to go for, because mostly when we were there as well, we were eating out in malls, because they offered a lot of variety in terms of everything you needed, really.
Yeah. But the fish and chips was really good out there.
Yeah.
Again,
Right.
Again, the fish was really fresh. And
So did you try like the crocodile meat and kangaroo meat?
No.
no, and we did deliberately avoid it, to be fair.
They had, I think the fish that they had that they would cook for fish and chips more often than not was barramundi, is that
Yes.
right?
Oh right, yeah.
Which apparently is closest to cod.
And there's part of it was, you know, the white meat that you got was definitely similar to cod, but there was a part of it that was more kind of like salmon. So it kind of varied as to whether you would actually get something that tasted like cod or whether you'd end up actually having a big bit of it that tasted like salmon in batter.
Shame you didn't try the crocodile and the kangaroo meat.
Well, it's not something that I would say that we've ever wanted to do or aspired to do. It's
It wasn't that. I think I did see on supermarket shelves, to be fair, but it was. I don't think it's a big thing for the locals either, to be fair. I didn't get a sense that this was something that they were doing all the time because it was available. I think it was still quite rarefied, even for the locals, and I think it would be I don't know about a treat, but something they do specially. But who knows? Maybe they're barbecuing kangaroo meat every weekend.
You never know.
Exactly.
You never know.
Again, sort of because we were there for quite a long time, it was more of a lifestyle thing that we were able to do rather than just be tourists and, like I say, fill up our day with tourist type things. So one of the really good things we were able to do was we found ourselves going to the local swimming pool.
Yes.
Was it outdoor pool?
It was an outdoor pool.
Yeah. They had, I think, 2 or 3 different pools that were out. All of them were outdoors.
They had an Olympic size one and a smaller one to the side.
Yeah.
And even the smaller one was 25 metres.
And they had one that was set aside just for children and people with limited mobility as well.
Well, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it was really good. And they also had, they were serving food as well, where you got your tickets and your entrance and whatever. They were serving teas, coffees and food and stuff. And that was great, you know, after you've had a swim. And they had really good facilities for showers afterwards and lockers and things. And it was just spick and span. I'm sure it was because it was winter, was that you had very few people using it outside of the kind of like the classes that they would run all the time for schools. So you had to know what time to go. But it was fabulous, and I'm sure it was because it was the winter that it was actually quite rarely used. And it was often us and 2 or 3 other people that would be there at the time that we went.
Yeah, we tend to go in the morning. This was the
Yeah.
Tobruk pool, by the way. If anyone wants to visit it, we'd certainly recommend it.
And you could basically spend the whole day there. You'd have some lunch and you've got all the shower facilities.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
and it was on the main drag. So it was dreadful really, was that we'd go there in the morning, do that, have a coffee there afterwards, and then on the way back to the place that we were staying, there was a great ice cream parlour that we'd stop at and just have the most enormous ice creams on the way back. They do.
After all that exercise, that was
fantastic.
your treat.
Yeah, they do fantastic ice cream in
Do
Australia.
all the good work.
Yeah, so completely worth it.
But we were going there, so I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week, weren't we?
Yeah.
And it was, it was quite reasonably cheap. It wasn't worth us getting a season ticket, even for the time we were there.
Yeah, I think you had to be like residents to take advantage of that.
Yeah, but the daily rate was completely reasonable.
Yeah, I think it was $3.50 maybe.
Yeah, so it was,
entrance. But what was absolutely fabulous about Cairns as well, was that, I mean, they had the botanical gardens as well, which was lovely, wasn't it? But and we went there a few times. That was fantastic to wander around. Basically, they had a race course in Cairns, and I love horse racing, but obviously, you know, budget was a big thing for me. And effectively in the UK, we've never lived close enough to go any place, to go to a race course. So when you do go, it's always like a special event. But to go to a race course in the UK, it costs a certain amount of money, and that's on top of whatever you end up betting if you do bet. In Cairns, I think they had races every fortnight, certainly while we were there, and you paid the equivalent of £5 entrance fee per person. And you go in, you know, you're that fabulous kind of place to sit indoors. If you don't want to go and stand outside and actually watch the horses, but they go right past where you're sitting anyway, so you're not losing anything. Free tea and coffee, subsidised bar, and they did hot food as well that was really good quality and really cheap. It was just amazing.
So I have to ask, did you place a bet and did you win?
We went.
I placed bets on every single race. That I think their race card was something like 6 or 7 races.
Okay.
In the afternoon.
Good afternoon's entertainment.
And did you win, Kieran?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, came out ahead.
We went twice, and
Yeah.
I won I did well in the first one, and I lost it all in the second time we went.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is pretty much gambling all over.
Yes, yeah. You have to. You take your money. You class it as entertainment money.
Yes, that's
and
the
that's
money
it.
for the
And it's
day.
money that you don't mind losing.
Yeah.
That's how you have to look at it. This is what I'm doing this afternoon. Instead of spending £30 on cinema tickets, you're spending £30 to watch the outcome of a race.
So if you'd walked away from that first race, how many dollars would you have walked away with?
I think it was about $60 or $70.
Oh!
I know, it was enough to pay for a meal.
Yeah, see, I'm the sort of person, if that had happened, I would have walked away and said, thank you very much, I'm done now.
And you're quite right to do so.
Yeah,
We,
you can't beat being risk averse when it comes to gambling.
Yeah. But it was a good day.
It was a really good day, which is why we went back, and why I didn't begrudge losing the next time. But I will say that Kiran mentioned the food. It was the best burger I had in the whole time we were there. I actually got in touch with a food blogger who was writing about Cairns food, and I actually recommended it, and he said he was going to go and visit, so I don't know if he ever did.
Wow. So that's a good recommendation.
I said so long as you don't mind paying the entrance fee.
Forget the restaurants, go to the racetrack.
And it was, so who knows whether he did it or not, but it was genuinely very good and cheap as well.
And a good day out.
And it was a good day out.
Really
So,
good day out.
so I'd say, as long as you're into racing, Cannon Park, and again, compared to the UK where they're very crowded and it's quite expensive, it was easy to park, very cheap, and just nice that you could wander around everywhere. So you could go to the enclosures and see the horses up close, and you didn't really even have to leave your seat to get to the finish line. A lot of us did. You just get, when you knew a race was on, you just get up from your seat and walk the 20 yards to the finish line. But if you didn't want to do that, you could just sit in your seats and stay there with your drink and just enjoy it from
very
the
nice.
indoors.
And I don't know, again, if it was because it was low season, so like, June time, where they class that as their winter, which is the best time to go, because I think any other time it would have just been too hot for us. But I think in May you definitely needed aircon on. But June, it was just nice, warm, spring-like weather. And but there definitely seemed to be a lull, I think, around about that time. Although I think one of the weekends we were there, they had a marathon race, or they had...
that was the Ironman.
The Ironman event, that's it.
Yes.
So they did have a lot of, an influx of tourism on that particular weekend, so all of the restaurants were doing their best to attract visitors and everything, and it was quite difficult to park and that kind of stuff, but yeah, it was amazing.
So anything else to add?
Only anecdotally is that when in our first few days there we were having lunch outside, it's actually outside the museum that we mentioned earlier. It's one of these things that once you spotted it you couldn't unspot it. I just spotted that like every man just wears shorts, and once I spotted it, and it took me it was literally 3/4 of an hour. We were people watching, and till I saw somebody wearing long trousers, and that's a function of the climate, and not an insult in any way, but it does. But it was something that did strike out to me, and until we went to Sydney for a weekend to visit some relatives, and then I suddenly remembered that that was climate.
So were you sitting there in long trousers?
I was sitting there in long trousers. That was that's just me. That was a cultural thing, and it did become very apparent that that's again the tropical climate, not an insult. Yeah. It was just one of those things I noticed.
Yeah.
While we were there.
It was much colder in Sydney, wasn't it?
Yes, and it was like I say, we right at the very beginning we mentioned the rain and the climate, but most of the time it was very warm, pleasantly so. I don't think there were many days where we were really flaked out by the heat.
No, I think it was May, but there was a definite difference in climate between May and then June. So in May, I think it was still quite warm, quite hot, and it noticeably got less humid as you got closer to June, and then June it was actually lovely, spring-like, or summer temperature in the UK.
We were eating outside all the time.
Yeah.
And it was, but again, as Kiran said, it was their winter, which we really did feel when we went down to Sydney, and where it was actively cold. So that reminded us that it's a big country. Australia is a big, big country, which is easy to forget. It was quite a long flight even.
It was, from Singapore,
Well, no, and from Cairns down to Sydney.
So was it your first time in Sydney?
No, we had spent a few days there about 10 years ago when we went down for a wedding.
But we didn't see anything of it, did we?
No, we got to this time, which was great.
Yeah.
We'd certainly go back.
Absolutely go back and spend a lot longer there.
I adore Sydney. I think in a past life I lived in Sydney. Definitely. I always say it's my spiritual home, Sydney.
I would like to spend more time there.
And exploring other areas of Australia.
Again.
I mean, as you say, Adie, though, Australia is such a big country, so diverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's not, a quick 2-week in and out. You're just scratching the surface there.
Oh, yeah, and even the amount of time we spent there. As I say, we're not travel experts, we're not travel bloggers or anything like that. This was just our experience. It was, and even in 2 months, I wouldn't like to claim that we saw everything, that we're experts on the area. We did love our time there. We'd certainly go back and are hoping to. Before too long.
And we definitely go to Cairns, if only to do that drive from Cairns to Port Douglas again.
I think one of the nice things was, though, because as you said, you had 2 months there.
Yeah.
So, you were in a home, so you weren't sort of, on the breakfast at 8:30 in a hotel. So you had time to sort of go to the local pool, do the film festival. If you've got a 2-week schedule here, it's going to be boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So that, that was, fabulous for you, that you had all that time and the flexibility of staying in a home.
We do know how lucky we were. We were very lucky to have such generous relatives giving us that opportunity.
And it came at the right time, the break, because I think your father had basically just passed away a few months before. He had a lot of ill health leading up to it, and your mum had dementia, and it was just coping with all of that. So we really needed a couple of months just out of the country to get away from all of that and all of the pressure of it. So the break came at the right time. But one of the things that I remember about it, and I think our very first night there, when we were lying in bed, we just heard this horrific shrieking. And we were like, what the hell is that? That sounds like somebody being killed. What is that? And they have these birds there that are nocturnal and just basically have the most awful scream that they do at night. For some reason, the noisiest thing ever, isn't it?
Yeah, they're very.
I can't think what they're called. I don't know if it's cassowaries.
Oh no, there are cassowaries there, but that wasn't what was making.
But this just goes on all through the night.
Yeah, and they're enormous birds as well. They come up to your knee.
Oh my God!
And they have beaks that are like, I don't know, 12 inches.
And
long.
they were just outside the house where you were living.
Yeah, they wander up and down the street, don't they?
Yes. I don't know if they're mating calls or whatever, but
my God.
I wouldn't even dare to try and imitate one on your podcast. Nobody wants to hear that.
No, but you can.
But we got used to it, to be fair.
Oh my God! So you managed to sleep through in the end.
I didn't.
Oh,
wow. No. So any final points you want to cover before we finish?
No, we're certainly looking forward to going back at some point. I don't think it's going to be this year, but we'd certainly love to go back.
I can see why people would want to settle down there as well.
Yeah.
The quality of life is just unbelievable. In fact, on our first visit to Australia, which I think was 2016, we went for my cousin's wedding, and we actually saw Adrian's side of the family while we were there as well. And your aunt, she grew up in Scotland. She went out there to help her dad and her stepmum with their business. I think they owned a hotel while they were there. And she basically met and fell in love with an Australian guy, and they ended up living there. She always wanted to come back to Scotland, but her kids basically said no. You know, where can we get this kind of lifestyle? We're certainly never going to find it back in the UK, you know, because they're very much outdoorsy people. They loved just windsurfing and, you know, swimming. And if you want an outdoor lifestyle, that's definitely the place for it.
So you've both got family out there?
Yeah.
Well, that's very useful for holidays. Yeah, nice. So, anything else you want to cover before we finish?
I think I think that's about right. You know, I think that gives you a flavour of it.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
That's just our little talk over a cup of tea.
Yeah, Cairns, a fabulous place. If you know, to be located, to explore it, it was lovely, and it was lovely having the amount of time there that we did.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I haven't had a travel conversation on the podcast for a long, long time. So thank you both for coming in and doing this. I mean, I love Australia anyway, and I've never been to Cairns. So do you say Cairns or Cairns? Some people say Cairns, Cairns. For me, it's completely new, but absolutely brilliant. So
thank you. You're very welcome.
Adie and Kiran.
Thank you. Thanks, Sheila.
And I hope you enjoyed that conversation, and it might give you an idea for a future holiday. So if you'd like to tell your story on the All About You podcast, please get in touch with me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story.